Hey there, welcome back to another review, this time of the 2015 film Avengers Age of Ultron. And this is a poster that I got from the movie theater where I saw the film in. I actually got it for free too, which is actually pretty cool. I think it's a really cool poster. I think it's a really cool movie too, and I would definitely put that up on my wall sometime. Anyway, I really like this film. As you can see, I already talked about it in my latest episode of Talking Cinema, so I definitely do really enjoy Age of Ultron. I'd probably say it's my favorite film of the year so far. The only film I think that could possibly knock it off is maybe Fury Road, but we'll see when I give that a look sometime soon. Age of Ultron's a film I thought was multiple steps above its predecessor. That's just my personal opinion. Anyone else is entitled to feel differently if they want to. That's just how I feel. I think it was a much better film than the Avengers was. I think it was a better it was a better paced film. It was a better Avengers movie for me, and it was more my type of film that I was looking forward to seeing. I didn't put my expectations to the stratosphere with this film. I think some people were let down by it because they just had way too high expectations for it. Um, take my advice on this. Don't put your expectations very high for anything. Especially a movie, because if it doesn't live up to those really high expectations, then you're going to be disappointed. And I just think you're setting yourself up for failure. So it's one of those things that I just looked at it, okay, I just wanted a fun, entertaining movie. And that's exactly what I got. I got a really fun, entertaining movie, and what I'd probably say is closer to an action film than what the last Avengers film was. And that's just what I prefer that type of movie. Like I said in another review, like other people prefer the more dramatic uh, action film, the film that's more leaned towards drama and less action, but it has action and it's effective, but it's more about building up the story. They're more into that kind of superhero movie. Um, Me personally, I'm a fan of the Fast and Furious, thrilling, fun, exciting, entertaining, popcorn style superhero flick. That's the type of superhero film I like. Um, There's some superhero films that I've seen that have a little bit of slow build that I don't mind, like Batman Begins or The Dark Knight or Superman the movie, for instance. But if I was gonna pick what my favorite type of superhero film would, it would be the big blockbuster action orientated type of superhero film. And that's what Avengers is. That's what Avengers Age of Ultron is. That's what I thought Avengers was going to be, but that's what this movie is. And it's refreshing. I don't think this film is an example of the death of the popcorn movie genre. That's a stupid thing to say, especially in an era where Furious 7 made almost $1 billion too. So, I think that's an absolute bunch of horseshit. That's me personally. I don't think this film sends women back a million years like some of the feminists do. We'll get into that later. Uh, I don't think it's one of Marvel's worst. I think that I really don't. I actually think it's one of their best. I watched this not once, but actually twice recently, and after the second time, I'd probably say I like this as much as Winter Soldier, just in a different way. Because I just find this to be an immensely entertaining, exciting, fun movie to watch. And that's one of the main reasons why. I think the fun that the characters have is infectious. It's like you're along for the ride with a group of really close friends who are having a great time, and they're also saving the world. And that's what it's like watching Avengers: Age of Ultron. You're hanging out with this really close group of friends who are having fun with each other, having quipping one-liners back and forth, enjoying their time with one another. At the same time, taking things seriously enough when it needs to, with Ultron and so forth, and still deal with some heavy issues, like with Tony Stark wanting to put a suit of armor around the world. I mean, putting a suit of armor around the world is playing God, technically, so it's the kind of thing you're not supposed to do, and you're encouraged not to, but Tony does have a point for creating Ultron. But doesn't mean that it was a good idea. But see, that's the whole thing. It adds a little bit of that sort of dynamic there. Um, so the movie does take itself seriously and does have some dramatic moments when it needs to, but it knows also when to have fun, and I really like that about it. And yeah, some of the jokes don't work. Hide the zucchini. Are you playing hide the zucchini? It doesn't necessarily work, but some of them really do. Like I had fun with the whole stuff, the in jokes back and forth. The first line of dialogue of the film is Stark saying shit, and Cap's all like language, and then Stark just would not let Cap live that down. It's like, oh gee, golly gosh, gee, Cap, I'm sorry. Then he's like, oh, I'm never gonna live this down, am I? And then Iron Man's on a loudspeaker and he's talking to the other Avengers. It's like, did anyone else not catch the Cap said language? It just slipped out, and then it just continues, and he keeps getting ribbed for it. Even Natasha gets in on it, and and uh, and even Cap's all like, you know what, Natasha? You know what, Romanoff? And then ultimately Cap ends up actually does swear, and spoiler. Nick Fury comes in with a shield helicarrier, saves the day, helps get some hostages off. Spoiler: floating city, off the floating city, and Cap's reaction is pretty fun too. He's like, "Fury, you son of a bitch," and then Fury replies back, "Whoa, ho, ho! You kiss your mother with that mouth?" so, so that there's a lot of fun to be had with these characters. There's even a fun scene where they're hanging out, drinking, and Thor decides to challenge his friends on seeing if they're worthy enough to lift his hammer, and it's a lot of fun. So it's a really really entertaining, fun flick, and I think that's the thing. I think people may be looking into it too much. They wanted a serious movie for some reason. Some people wanted a really serious Avengers film, and I'm glad it wasn't that. I'm glad it was a fun movie. I'm glad it was a movie I could kick back and drink a Mellow Yellow and snack on some chips while watching it. I'm glad it's that. I miss these type of movies where I just sit back and I could just enjoy it and just have a lot of fun just watching the film and not really have to worry about, I don't know, it's not trying to send a message to me. It's just trying to entertain me. And that's exactly what Age of Ultron, I believe personally, was intended to do, is to entertain its audience. And to me, it succeeds admirably. Does an amazing job succeeding with that goal. Um, Joss Whedon comes back as director, and he also comes back as a writer. He said this film broke him. I could see why, because the expectations for this film were really high. It's probably the most hyped film of the year. And there's a possibility the film was never going to live up to the hype that some people had for it. Because, like I said, some people just put things way too high in terms of expectations. It's impossible for the film to ever possibly live up to that. I kind of look at Indiana Jones with the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull like that. It has its flaws, but still a really entertaining, fun movie. But I think some of the flaws, people just exploded up into these huge, big things that just completely ruined the film because their expectations were so high for a film, a sequel, nonetheless, of a franchise that hadn't had a film released since 1989, and so you had a sequel that came out almost 30 years later, and people were all like, they were really, they put their expectations way too high for Crystal Skull, and of course it let them down. So, like I said, it's fine if you don't like the film. I have no problem with that. People are entitled to their opinions. Everyone has one. May not agree with some of them, but that doesn't make any difference because it's the world isn't created for people to agree with my opinions or for everyone to agree with other people's opinions. It's the world's created for people to have their own individual point of views. And if you hate the movie, cool. If you like it, cool. And I'm glad that people are having that type of reaction. Like the movie, love the movie, hate it. Please don't find the middle ground unless it truly is. But if you do find it to be a mediocre film, go for that too. Because at the end of the day, differing opinions are what makes this world interesting. So keep it up. Keep making this world interesting by having your own opinion. But anyway, so Joss Whedon comes back, and I thought he actually did a really good job writing this time around. Like I said, I thought the humor was better in this. I know some critics disagree, but I thought there was only a few lines that I thought didn't work. The rest of the lines I thought were pretty funny. I thought the humor did work for the most part. And I just like the dynamic. I like how much fun it is. It's a really fun movie. And Joss Whedon, though, got a lot of crap for this movie. So much so that he closed down his Twitter account because it's getting so much hate from these feminists, which is just a bunch of bullshit. And I'll get to that later. And haters, people who hated him for the movie because it wasn't as good as their sky high expectations for the film were. And so he closed his Twitter account. And I like the comment that he made about it. He's like, "Oh, great. Well, that's good because now I won't have to go to You Suck Land anymore." Like, Twitter is You Suck Land. That's actually a pretty good way to put it, Joss. It really is. I thought this is definitely a better film than Cabin in the Woods, but a lot of movies are because Joss Whedon also helped make that film as well. I don't think he directed it, but I think he did help write it. But anyway, this whole other story. Excuse my allergies acting up a little bit. So excuse me for my sniffling. And so the film brings back all of the original cast from the Avengers, even adds in a few new cast members. And they all do a good job. Joss Whedon did a great job balancing all of these characters in one film, once again, without it feeling too crowded. I never thought it was too crowded. I know some people thought it was too crowded. I didn't think so. I thought he did a good job. I know some people were disappointed that it wasn't like the Avengers, where there was like multiple different scenes that were devoted to every single character, building up their characters even more. And I'm like, I'm glad it didn't go that route, because I personally thought that was a mistake that the last film made. Because we already had films before the Avengers that gave these characters their own character development. We didn't really need much else. I was fine with Hawkeye and Scarlett Johansson's character Black Widow getting those moments, because those characters could have used a little bit more. But Iron Man had 2 movies before the Avengers. Captain America had his own film, and so did all these other. Thor had his own movie. Hulk had his own movie, in The Incredible Hulk, but it was a different character. It was Mark Ruffalo, so they had to have a little bit more time to introduce this new Bruce Banner. So there was already time devoted to those characters, and the Avengers already did all of that character development. So I'm glad Avengers: Age of Ultron didn't decide to weigh down the running time or ruin the pacing of the film by just slow moving moments of dialogue and talking and character building, because the movie has much better pacing than Avengers. There's 3 action sequences in the first hour alone. Then it finally takes a lull, and even then it's still well done and entertaining and to watch, even though it is a little bit of a lull in the action. And then it picks up again, and it doesn't stop until the end of the movie. So I don't have a problem with that. I like that. I think that's great pacing. I like a film that has breakneck pacing. I like a film like Speed, where the suspense is in, you have to keep going. You're a race against time. There's no time for talking. There's no time for this. And they didn't really have time. The way that the plot was going in this movie, the Avengers didn't have time for chit-chat. They didn't have time for introspective talks about themselves. The film did have some moments like that for Bruce Banner and Natasha, and especially for Hawkeye, which Joss Whedon did a really great job fleshing out that character and showing us that he is an important cog in the machine, so to speak, when it comes to the Avengers. It showed us that Hawkeye is somebody that the Avengers do need to be a part of the team. It also showed us why he does what he does. And it also made me really like that character. And kudos to Joss Whedon for writing those scenes for Hawkeye to give him a lot of much needed character development. And kudos to Jeremy Renner for delivering such a great performance. So that was your character building for the most part. Your story arc was for Hawkeye, who didn't have one before in any of the other movies. So, and there was a little bit with Bruce Banner and Natasha with the romance that I didn't mind because I thought they had chemistry. But I know some people had a problem with that, and that's okay. So, anyway, so there's a little bit of moments for character building. Like I said, most of it was devoted towards Hawkeye or the villain, Ultron. So anyway, and I have an issue with that because I didn't want this film to be just like the last movie. I wanted it to be more of an action film. That's more of what my cup of tea is anyway. That's more the type of film that I enjoy. I prefer my superhero films to be popcorn flick action movies. And that's what Age of Ultron is. So it's not that I don't enjoy some of the slower moving superhero films like that have a slow burn to them, so to speak. I like The Dark Knight. I like Batman Begins. I like Superman the movie, but I do prefer the faster paced, more action orientated superhero flick. That's just the way I am. So anyway, so you have all those characters: Mark Ruffalo, Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, Robert Downey Jr., Thor, Iron Man, Hulk, Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson, Hawkeye. You also have War Machine comes back, Don Cheadle. He was one of the few things about Iron Man 3 I liked, so it was nice to see more of him. He gets a few moments, little bits of moments, where he gets to get some action, so to speak. Aaron Taylor Johnson is one of the newcomers who plays Quicksilver. Almost completely unrecognizable in this film. He does a pretty good job. The accent was there, but it could have been a little bit better. He's not a mutant, and neither is his sister, Wanda, played by Elizabeth Olsen, because the Disney couldn't call them mutants because of X-Men Days of Future Past, because that's part of the X-Men franchise owned by Fox. But Marvel was able to get the rights back to use their names, but they just couldn't, and their characters, but they couldn't use them as X-Men. So they turned them into enhanced humans created by Baron von Strucker through these experiments, which I didn't mind it. It was all right. Elizabeth Olsen, I actually really liked her in this. Her accent was another sort of issue. There's like very small issues I have with the film, and those are basically a couple of them. The accents of the two twins I thought were kind of, I don't know. It was supposed to be Russian, but I don't know. It just seemed a little bit fake to me. Paul Bettany comes in as the Vision. He's also the voice of Jarvis, so it makes sense that he plays the Vision. He does a really great job, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more of the Vision in later installments, later Avengers films, and later movies. Cobie Smulders comes back as Agent Maria Hill. She has a decent amount of stuff to do, but not a lot. None of that's really that memorable, but she's there. She has a fun little line of dialogue where she's explaining a little bit of things to Captain America about the twins. Anthony Mackie comes back as Falcon. He doesn't really. He's not in the main action. He's not in the final battle against Ultron and his forces. And when I first saw the film, I was like, "Why isn't he there?" But then I watched the film again, and then I caught a line of dialogue when Cap and Falcon are talking with each other in the party, and he's saying, "Any luck?" And Falcon was telling Cap, "Not very much luck on the missing persons case," which made me okay. All right. Falcon is off doing his job, which is to search for Winter Soldier. So that's why he wasn't in the final battle at the end, because he was looking for Bucky. And I'm okay with that. When I figured that out, I'm like, okay, all right, it's fine that he's not in the final battle. So then you also have like Haley Atwell has like a little bit in a dream sequence as Cap's girlfriend. Stellan Skarsgård is there as the scientist. Doesn't have much to do, but he doesn't get mind controlled this time. James Spader steals the show as Ultron, one of the most charismatic, fun-to-watch villains in a Marvel movie I've seen to date. I thought he was much better than Loki. I didn't think he was nearly as unintimidating as some people thought he was. I didn't think he was a chump either, like some people think Ultron is. That he was beaten too easily. I highly disagree with that, and I'll explain that later. But I love James Spader. I love him as an actor anyway. So he's one of my favorite actors. He always plays a good villain, and he's a great villain in this. He does a great job with the voice acting. You can tell he's having a lot of fun with this role, and it's I like the fact that Ultron had a personality. I'm really glad he wasn't just a stereotypical one-note robot, killer robot with no personality. I'm glad he wasn't. People didn't like Ultron because he had a sense of humor. I don't know what to say about that. To each their own, because I love Ultron. I thought he was great in this. I thought he was the best Marvel villain to date on screen. Love the sense of humor. I really enjoyed this wry sense of humor that he had. It also made him feel a little bit more human, because a lot of humans have sense of humor. I mean, some people don't, but Ultron does, and it was nice to see that. And James Spader's really good with his deadpan and delivering that kind of line anyway. So, yeah, I really liked Ultron. People say he's a little bit underpowered. Well, it seems that way with any villain that goes up against the Avengers not named Thanos. Because They're the Avengers. They have a Hulk who could probably destroy Ultron and his entire army by himself, but he'd also destroy the city and kill everybody in it. So that's why they don't throw out the Hulk as Plan A. But yeah, I still thought James Spader was great. Um, of course, Nick Fury comes back as well. Now you also have music by Brian Tyler and Danny Elfman. Not much of that was really that memorable, except for the main Avengers theme, which I still like that main theme. It was serviceable, nothing spectacular. Once again, excuse me for sniffling, allergies acting up, or I hope I'm not getting a cold. That would suck. Um, Ben Davis did the cinematography. I don't know if he's the same cinematographer for Avengers, but I thought the cinematography in this was much better than the Avengers. Cinematography in the Avengers I thought was kind of static, a little bit bland. Here I thought it was really well done, especially in the sequences with the dream sequences with Scarlet Witch, who's creating these nightmare scenarios for our heroes. And the way those sequences were shot were beautiful. They were really, really wonderful cinematography with those shots. And the editing by Jeffrey Ford and Lisa Lasek, I think they edited the Avengers. I thought was a little bit better, a little bit more tightly paced. It had definitely had a lot more energy to it. This whole film had more energy to it. It just felt full of energy, full of life. The last Avengers film didn't really feel that way until the last half of the movie for me. But anyway, that's a little bit. That's going down a few of those sort of things. The cast and crew, and my thoughts on that. Now let's go run down over the plot, give you guys a few quotes I like, and then I'll give you guys my final rating of the movie. And this is where I'm going to get into spoilers. So if you haven't seen the film yet, I would probably say don't watch the rest of this review because I'm going to be spoiling a lot. Um, but if you have, go right ahead, watch the rest, please. And I know that there's probably not that many people who haven't seen it because it's a movie that made over $1 billion worldwide. So I'm probably behind the times anyway with this review. So, but anyway, still willing to give you guys my thoughts on it because I really did like this movie. So, anyway, the plot, it starts out with a really rousing, fun action sequence with the Avengers going up against Baron von Strucker and his forces. And like I was saying, the first line of dialogue is Stark saying shit. There's a shit, caps like language. And so right off the bat, I know that I'm going to have fun with the movie. And Captain America has a really badass moment where he picks up his bike and he throws it at these Hydra forces and it makes them go flying. And the way I describe it doesn't sound like much, but trust me, the way they shoot that sequence is epic. It's really awesome. And there's a really awesome slow-mo shot of the Avengers in action, which is really cool. And I really enjoy this scene where Tony Stark enters a room full of Hydra soldiers. And he's like, guys, let's talk about this. He shoots all the Hydra guys non-fatally. He's like, good talk. And then there's this guy in the background who just says in pain, he's like, no, it wasn't. So I thought that was kind of fun. And so you have a really fun, rousing action sequence with the Avengers taking on Strucker's forces, which is much better than the opening of the Avengers. And then Tony Stark, he ends up finding the secret room because he manages to, a little bit of the action sequence. They break down the shield that there's like a force field that's around the fortress. Iron Man breaks it down, gets in there, takes out the guards, finds a secret door, finds a secret room because they're trying to find the scepter, Loki's scepter, who what they've been looking for since the end of the Avengers. And this is where you find out about the twins. And Strucker sends them out a little bit, and they cause some havoc. And Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, she ends up doing some mind stuff with Tony Stark and makes him see this image of a possible future where the Chitauri have invaded again and killed all the Avengers except for him. And so that terrifies him, but then he takes the scepter. So he takes it back to the Avengers headquarters, and then he realizes that the scepter has this artificial intelligence in it. And early in the film, he was using this new Iron Legion, these group of remote-controlled Iron Man robots, to help people out. Like Strucker's forces were causing some civilian casualties. So we sent out the Iron Legion to get people to evacuate. And people don't like the Iron Legion, and they're throwing acid at the Iron Legion robots' faces and stuff. And there's even like graffiti on a lot of the it's kind of like on the city's walls that have like banning Iron Man, no Iron Man, and stuff like that. It doesn't focus a lot on that, but it doesn't need to. There's just enough there to get the point across that people are not fond of this Iron Legion thing. So a lot of these people probably won't really be welcome to a suit of armor around the world, so to speak. But Tony, despite Dr. Banner having some problems with his plan because he wants to create Ultron, he wants to take this artificial intelligence that he found in the scepter and use it to create Ultron, which is going to be this program that will help, keep the peace and peace in our time, like he says. And so it's an admirable thing. His heart is in the right place, but he's not using his mind as well. Because what happens is it's artificial intelligence. You can't really control artificial intelligence, do whatever it wants. But he hopes he'll be able to control it so he can use it for the global defense program. Because he's afraid of an alien invasion. He even talks to Captain America, and he's all like, we can bust the drug dealers all the day, but what about that? What about that? That is something that we can't possibly comprehend. I mean, we're the Avengers, but how are we going to stop that? And then Cap says, together, we'll lose. Then we'll do that together too. So there's some nice little moments there with Cap and Iron Man there. And so, but Tony doesn't listen to that. And he decides to experiment with the help of Bruce Banner to try to get this artificial intelligence into this Ultron program. And they spend 3 days working on it. It's not working out. And then all of a sudden, they leave to go to a party. And then it starts working, which is kind of convenient to the plot, but it didn't bug me that much. It really didn't. Because, they spent a long time on it. So, who knows? Maybe it just started up then. Or maybe there's another power behind it. Because just at the end of the movie, Thanos gets the Infinity Gauntlet, and he's like, I'm going to have to do this myself. And even Thor says in a line like, all of these Infinity Gems have been showing up. It seems like we're pawns for somebody's game. Which then makes me think, oh, so maybe Ultron was booted up by Thanos with the help of the Mind Stone, which is within the Infinity, which is not in the Infinity Gauntlet. It's going to be in the Infinity Gauntlet, but it's within the Scepter, which is a very powerful Mind Stone. Anyway, that's just the theory. So, Ultron, they have this party, which is fun. You have this really fun scene where Iron Man and Hawkeye and Cap and all the Avengers are hanging out, and they're drinking and they're trying to lift Thor's hammer. And Thor's like, only he who is worthy can lift the hammer. Thor said, "We lift this hammer." And even Hawkeye is like, only he whosoever be worthy can lift this hammer. Well, that's a bunch of BS. Tries to lift it up, it doesn't work. Tony Stark comes in, and he tries to lift it, and he's all like, it's physics. That's all it is. So if I lift this hammer, I become ruler of Asgard, right? Yes. I will rule with a firm but cruel. I will be firm but cruel. He tries to lift it up, doesn't work. Tries to get his Iron Man gauntlet, doesn't work with that. Tries to get the help from Rhodey with his own War Machine gauntlet, that doesn't lift it up. Hulk, Bruce Banner picks it up and then scares the shit out of everybody because he tries to lift it up and he goes, ah! And then they're all like, because they're like, no, don't Hulk out. And then you have I like how Cap tries to lift it and he budges it. He budges it. You can hear it move a little bit, and even Thor has a funny reaction. He's like, and he doesn't lift it up though. And then Thor's talking, and then Iron Man's like, I have a theory. It's whoever possesses Thor's fingerprints can lift the hammer. But I have a better theory. You're not worthy. And then Ultron comes online. Which I thought was a pretty, really, really eerie moment. Great performance, voiceover by James Spader. I'd show the clip, but come on, it's a recent movie. Do you think I'm going to do that? But I'll try to do it justice. So here, Ultron, he's booted up, and before he attacked Jarvis, who he first started up, and Jarvis tried to help him out, and he realized that he's a peacekeeping program, but he has a problem with that, and so he attacks Jarvis. And now his consciousness is in this robot that's broken down. I think it's like the same robot that had the acid smashed on its face too, earlier in the film. One of the Iron Legion robots. And Thor says, "Better, you're not worthy." And then Ultron comes in. Worthy? No. How could you be worthy? You're all killers. Steve's like, Stark? Tony's like, Jarvis? Sorry. I was asleep. Or I was a dream. Tony's tapping his phone. Reboot. We got a buggy suit. There was a terrible noise. And I was tangled in strings. I had to kill the other guy. He was a good guy. You killed someone? Wouldn't have been my first call. But down in the real world, we're faced with ugly choices. Who sent you? He replaced Tony's voice. I see a suit of armor around the world. Ultron. In the flesh. Or, no, not yet. Not this chrysalis. But I'm ready. I'm on a mission. What mission? Peace in our time. And he then follows that up with this good line where he's talking about the only way to achieve peace is to here it is. It's like, you want to protect the world, but you don't want it to change. There's only one path to peace. Your extinction. So, then he sends out some of the Iron Legion to attack them in a fun action sequence, and they take him out, take out Ultron's body, but that's just it, because then he says, I had strings, but now I'm free. And so, now he's free, and now he goes into the Strucker's Sokovia base to upgrade his body and build an army of robot drones. Ultron kills Strucker. He then recruits the Maximovs, who holds the twins, Pietro and Wanda. Pietro has superhuman speed. He's really fast. And Wanda, who can manipulate minds and project energy. She's weird. And he ends up recruiting them because they hold Stark responsible for their parents' death by his weapons. And so together they go to the base of the arms dealers Ulysses Claw in an African shipyard, which is actually in Wakanda, which is a little bit of tie-in to Black Panther, because that's where Black Panther comes from, is Wakanda, and to obtain vibranium, the material used to make Cap's shield. And the Avengers then pursue them, but Wanda then starts messing with their minds, causing these weird dreams, and then it causes Hulk to rampage until Stark stops him with his Hulkbuster armor, which is a sight to be seen. It really is. And all this happens within the first hour of the film, folks. All of that. First 5-6 minutes, fun battle against Strucker's forces. Fun back and forth, fun little action sequence with the Avengers fighting off the Iron Legion that Ultron sent off against them at the Avengers headquarters. I said, excuse me for sniffling there. And then Ultron comes in, and you have the whole sort of thing where he gives all these guys his money. He cuts off Ulysses' arm because he compares him to Stark, and he's pissed. It's like, don't compare me with Stark. He's a sickness. And then Iron Man shows up, and he's like, Junior, you're gonna break your old man's heart. And so there's a little bit of a fight between Ultron and the Avengers, and there's a really good shot where Quicksilver and punches Cap in the face, right in the chin in slow mo. It's like one of those like ooh, you wincing moments as Cap's like battling. Quicksilver comes in and just hits him, uppercuts him right in the chin, and there's just one of those like ooh man, that had to hurt. Excuse me. Then Wanda goes in and then she does the mind control thing, and then you have the Hulk versus Iron Man. And like I was saying earlier, it's a sight to be seen. You have to see. It's one of those like spectacles. It's like one of the most epic things I've ever seen on in the movie theater. Period. And it's a lot of fun too. Hulk, stabs Iron Man in the back. He's like, "Oh, stab me in the back, dick move, Banner, dick move." And then he's turning to the back. "You're Bruce Banner." Oh, I forgot. Don't mention Puny Banner. Hulk throws something at Iron Man, and I like how in this segment, Hulk is tearing things apart, but Iron Man comes in and helps out. But he makes sure to save everybody that he can, and even makes sure to, when he's trying to take out the Hulk, so he makes sure to make sure that the building he's going to drop him into doesn't have anybody in it. So I like that about the film. And that's another thing the film actually does really well. It shows these heroes being heroes a lot, and right in your face. It's not vague. They're saving people. They're doing their job. And so Iron Man, I like this one where he has this arm, this arm in his Hulkbuster armor, and it has like a repeated punching motion. So he goes like boom, 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 go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, and it's not working. And the Hulk's just being a real pain. And then he gets a punch in the Hulk square in the face, and he punches Hulk so hard he spits out one of his teeth. And then you can just the look on Tony Stark's face is classic. He's just like, um, I'm sorry. And then there's just a really fun battle, and then ultimately Iron Man drops Hulk through the one of these buildings, and then Hulk gets up, and then Iron Man knocks him out, and then subdues the Hulk. And then now the Avengers are compromised. They don't know to trust themselves. They're messed up in the head, and they end up finding this safe house, which happens to be a house where you find out Clint Barton, Hawkeye's family lives, his wife and his kids, who were kept secret in order to protect them by Nick Fury. Nick Fury did it as a favor to Clint, and it just has a lot of character development for Clint. This is where you have the moment where it's kind of controversial, I guess, where Bruce Banner's talking about how, these kids is like, what, you think I can have any of this? Kids? He's like, I can't. And Natasha's like, well, I can't either. Because in the Red Room, the graduation ceremony, they sterilize you. One less thing to worry about. Makes it easier to kill. And I think you're the only monster, so to speak. And so some people really interpreted that, I think, the wrong way. I think what it is she feels she's every bit of a monster as Bruce because she's been a killer for all her life. And maybe in a little bit she might feel a little bit like a freak because she can't have kids. And is there anything wrong with that? I think as a woman, I think she would feel a little bit different because she can't have kids. And then that probably does make her feel like a freak sometimes. And it's not putting women backwards. It just it took a lot of guts for her to admit that. And it just adds a lot more to Black Widow's character. It makes you feel for her even more. You're like, wow, that's really awful. And so yeah, so you're not the only one who's alone. That's pretty much what I thought she said. I didn't think she even said monster. If she did say that letter, I mean she did say that later, not letter. She did say that in a letter. If she said that later, it wasn't in regards to that scene. In that scene, she just says you're not the only one who's alone, if I remember correctly. And so, yeah, you're not alone with how you feel. You feel like a monster sometimes. So anyway, so there's that. Then you have a little bit of that scene with Cap and Iron Man, which is leading up to Civil War. Which, well acted, but I don't know. I'm not a fan of Civil War. I'm not looking forward to it, but I'll give it a shot. But yeah, my expectations aren't very high for that. It's just a concept I never cared for. Civil War is a comic series that I completely gave up on reading Marvel comics because of it. So, yeah, that's a really touchy subject for me. But anyway, so you have this little bit of a lull while the Avengers are catching their breath, dealing with all this, and then you have a really great line of dialogue by Nick Fury, which is in the trailer, but it's a great line of dialogue, and it really does sum up how important the Avengers are. And though they've been compromised with they can't trust themselves. The world really needs them. And so I'm just trying to find the line. Here it is. He's like, this is Nick Fury. Here we all are, with nothing but our wit and our will to save the world. So stand and fight, which is actually a pretty good bit of advice. And so that helps them get together a little bit more. And then Bruce realizes that Ultron wants a new body. And so he realizes Ultron's going to be using this new doctor, Dr. Cho, who created this new really fancy thing, technology which is able to create new skin and stuff like that. And so Ultron gets to create a new body for him. And so then you get another action sequence. The Avengers come in, they find out that Ultron is going to try to plant his consciousness in this new body made out of vibranium. And so then the Avengers have to stop it. They have to take the body away from him. That's what happens. They come and Cap acts as a distraction, fights Ultron, so Black Widow can get the new body to Hawkeye in the Quinjet. Nice, fun, rousing, exciting sequence. This is when Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver agree to help the Avengers, because they didn't really know that Ultron's plan was to destroy the world. They didn't know that was his plan, and figured that out eventually. And before that, there was just some really good scenes too, where Ultron is in a church, I believe, which is a good sequence. He's in a church. This is where he first meets Wanda and Pietro. And actually, there's a little bit of this too. This is what made them agree to help Ultron. And Wanda's like, "You're going to destroy the Avengers? I'm going to save the world." And, well, yeah. And so there's that. And then I was designed to save the world. People will look to the sky and see hope. I'll take that from them first. And so I know Ultron just had some really great lines. And even this fun moment where while they're in Wakanda, Steve's asking Ultron, is like, we could still find a better way to achieve peace. And Ultron's like, Captain America, I can't actually throw up in my mouth. But if I could, I would do it. So you see, that's the sense of humor that Ultron has, which is nice to see. And then you have this scene that I'm talking about, where the scene where he's in the church. This is another one. Wanda's talking to Ultron. He's like, I wanted him to face his fear, to create something we could use against him. Everyone creates the thing they dread. Men of peace create engines of war. Invaders create Avengers. People create smaller people? That's not right. Children. Lost a word there. Children. Designed to supplant them. To help them end. And then there's the church scene. He's sitting in the church. They put the building in the middle of the city, so that everyone could be equally close to God. I like that. The symmetry. The geometry of belief. So, just most of the quotes I'm doing are Ultron quotes, because James Spader is so awesome. And so anyway, the Avengers managed to steal Ultron's body away from him. And Stark hasn't learned his lesson and decides he's going to put Jarvis into this new body. Bruce agrees to help out, reluctantly. But then Wanda And Petra realized about this and unplugged the machine. But then Thor comes back because he had left during the whole lull in the middle of the film when they were at the safe house to get some answers for himself. And he realizes that they need this machine. And Ultron had already put the stone, the Infinity Gem that was inside of the scepter, which is technically the Mind Stone, which is a very powerful Infinity Stone, and he put it on the Vision. Of course, what would ultimately become the Vision. He put it on the body that was supposed to be his. And even though the machine got unplugged, Thor comes in and brings the Vision to life with his hammer. And then it's the birth of the Vision. And it's actually a pretty good sequence too, where the Vision is born, and good acting by what's his name? Bettany. I don't want to kill Ultron. He's unique, and he's in pain. But that pain will roll over the earth, so he must be destroyed. Every form he's built, every trace of his presence on the net. We have to act now, and not one of us can do it without the others. Maybe I am a monster. I don't think I'd know if I were one. I'm not what you are, and not what you intended. So there may be no way to make you trust me. Hands Thor's hammer. But we need to go. And so that's what happens. Vision helps out. And so now the Avengers not only have 2 new members to help them out in a battle against Ultron, and Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, but the Vision as well, who they needed. So people who think Ultron's a chump villain, think about this. The Avengers needed 2 of his allies in Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver to help them out in order to beat Ultron. And they not only needed their help, but they also needed to steal the body that was intended for Ultron, bring it to life, put Jarvis into it, part of Jarvis anyway, and create the Vision. So they had to create a whole other robot, a whole other artificial intelligence, in order to just lock Ultron out of the internet. And they needed all the other extra Avengers to beat Ultron. To me, that means that Ultron wasn't easy to beat. That means that the Avengers needed extra help to beat him. If it was easy to beat, they wouldn't have needed the other Avengers to help them, but they needed that. I think Ultron came the closest out of all of the other supervillains in Marvel film history to date of actually beating them and actually succeeding with his goal, which was to annihilate the human race and start over. And I know some people have a problem with that plot. I'm like, what else was he going to do? What else is going to get the Avengers to team up? And what scenario can you think of? What other scenario can you think of is going to need the Avengers? A cataclysmic event. That's what's going to need the Avengers. So I didn't have a problem with that. With it being we're just going to destroy the world type thing. Because they did it in a unique way, which I really liked. Because pretty much what happened is Ultron uses his machine made out of vibranium to lift a city, an entire city, up. Sokovia. To lift Sokovia, the capital of Sokovia, in the air. And he's going to use it as a meteor to annihilate the Earth. Wipe out mankind. Not necessarily annihilate the Earth, just wipe out mankind, start over. And even Ultron has a really good quote here where he's talking about this plan, and he's telling it to the Avengers. And do you see the beauty of it? The inevitability? You rise only to fall. You Avengers are my meteor, my swift and terrible sword, and the earth will crack with the weight of your failure. Purge me from your computers. Turn my own flesh against me. It means nothing. When the dust settles, the only thing living in this world will be metal. So, definitely, that line was definitely said better by James Spader, but well written, good line of dialogue. And so, yeah, the Avengers are now in this city trying to save people while Ultron's sending out his army. I've been waiting for this moment. all of you against all of me. So all of these robots, and so they're trying to stop all these robots and save people in the process. And then that's when Nick Fury comes up and saves the day with the helicarrier so they can get the hostages, technically hostages, but really just get the civilians off the city so they can actually do the plan that Tony Stark came up with, because they have to blow up the city, the floating city, which is technically an island now, in time before it hits the Earth and causes a cataclysmic event that just wipes out mankind. And so there's a lot of suspense there. And so then the Avengers team up, and there's even a good moment I like with Hawkeye, where he's talking to Scarlet Witch, and she's scared, and he's like, I don't know what's going on here. We're on a city that's flying. It's flying. It's crazy. But if you walk out that door, you're an Avenger. And it's like, I don't have time to babysit you. So I like that. That was a good sequence with Hawkeye. And she agrees to help. She's pretty badass. She has a lot of awesome moments. And going back to Black Widow, how can I forget this? She's saved by Ultron, captured, and saved by Banner. She kicks him down a hole, turns him into the Hulk, and she comes in. The Hulk helps her get to the city, and helps her help the Avengers, and she kicks some ass. The Hulk kicks some ass, and there's a moment where the Hulk ends up just saving her, but mainly because if Hulk doesn't do anything, she's probably going to be dead. Because technically, folks, Black Widow isn't human. Even though she does so many badass things and holds her own, she still is human. And so, there is that. Hawkeye has a moment where he looks like he might sacrifice himself for the life of another human being. But then, you have, there's big spoilers here. Quicksilver comes in and takes the bullet. And so, and he says, like, you didn't see that coming. And he dies. She's like, whoa, okay, alright. So that's, Quicksilver's died in 2 movies? He died in Days of Future Past, he dies here. It is what it is. They handled it well, they handled his death well, so it makes it, you realize that, there are some casualties here in this battle. Scarlet Witch decides to defend, the Avengers team up, break apart a bunch of robots in a really epic scene where it pans around, and the Avengers are kicking a lot of old robots' asses. It's a really epic sequence as they're defending the Switch, to make it so the city doesn't go up even higher into the air. And so they beat a bunch of these robots. Vision locks Ultron out of the net. They kick Ultron's ass. Iron Man, Vision, and a few other Avengers. Ultron gets him. He's the one that actually shoots Quicksilver. He does it while he's singing "There Are No Strings on Me" as well, with glee. And then he tries to fly away, but then Hulk gets him, which is a great moment. Hulk just grabs him out of the back. He's like, "Oh, for God's sake!" And the Hulk just throws Ultron's ass out. And he even punched Ultron before, but Ultron gets back in the plane later. And then he picks up Ultron and throws him into a bus. And then you have this moment where Scarlet Witch gets a really badass moment. She rips out Ultron's heart. I'm going to show you what it feels like to die. And it's like, what? I'm already, you're already dead. It's like, it pulls out his heart. And the moment where she's in anguish and breaks apart all of these robots is Scarlet Witch had a lot of badass moments. So that's a second female superhero who actually has powers this time around, who kicks a lot of ass and has a lot of good moments. So what did these feminists completely ignore Scarlet Witch? Because she has a lot of awesome moments in this. And Black Widow still kicks ass, but they add a little bit more to her character, that she has the ability to fall in love. She's not a completely soulless person. She's trying to be more human, less of the killing machine that she was created to be. And the moments that she brings up about being a monster, you can kind of understand her point of view. And her getting saved by Bruce Banner was just because, hey, she needed to be rescued. Sometimes it happens. It showed her being vulnerable, because every other movie showed her being completely, almost unstoppable. It showed her have no vulnerability. So this film brought her down to earth. So I didn't mind that. I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it set the character back. That's just me personally. And Ultron, yeah, he eventually does get defeated. But so does all other villains not named Thanos, because Thanos is Infinity God. He's gonna kill some of the Avengers. Here, there's an Avenger who dies. We didn't get to know him that much, but kind of made the loss of Quicksilver hurt even more because he was a young kid. He had a lot of life ahead of him, a lot of a potential time as a hero ahead of him too, and he dies so early on in the battle. So I didn't mind the way they handled that either. And Ultron, yeah, he finally gets defeated. And then you have a moment where, like, one little Ultron. Because I think people miss the point that Ultron is not just that one big robot made out of vibranium, voiced by James Spader. Ultron is all the robots. Like he said, all of you against all of me. So, for the first time, the Avengers weren't just facing one guy. They weren't just facing Loki and, the Chitauri army, I guess. So in this instance, it's the robot army instead of the Chitauris. But they were facing, like, a huge bunch of robots. And it looks anticlimactic because it's the Avengers. So that's the problem you're going to have with any Avengers film for me, is that whenever you have a villain and you have a battle, it's going to seem a little bit anticlimactic because it's the Avengers we're talking about. Because they're Earth's mightiest heroes. It's kind of hard to even have a match for them. But anyway, you have that moment where this is the moment where you have Vision meets up with the last Ultron, the last remaining Ultron. And Ultron is speaking to Vision. Stark asked for a savior, settled for a slave. I suppose we're both disappointments. I suppose we are. Humans are odd. They think order and chaos are somehow opposites, and try to control what won't be. But there is grace in their failings. I think you missed that. They're doomed. Yes, but a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts. It's a privilege to be among them. You're unbelievably naive. Well, I was born yesterday. So that was I thought it was kind of a fun moment. And then you have the whole scene where the Vision takes him out. You're afraid. Of you? Of death. You're the last one. You were supposed to be the last. So then you have that. So that's technically the ending. I mean, pretty much Iron Man then retires. Thor goes back to Asgard, I think. And a new Avengers team is created with Black Widow, Captain America, Falcon, and Scarlet Witch, and War Machine. And then there's a mid-credit scene with Thanos. So yeah, that's Avengers Age of Ultron. Really in-depth review, I know, but I just wanted to do that now so I don't have to do it later. I would be remiss if I didn't mention one more line from Steve Rogers. You get hurt him back. You get killed, walk it off. Which I thought was actually pretty cool. Which made sense because he technically did die for 40 years because he got frozen in ice. So that's the whole thing. Cap walked off dying. So he's like, so you saw that Cap was getting a little bit more of a personality and getting used to the new world that he was living in. So that's a little bit of character story arc for Cap, but not a lot, but just enough. But anyway, I've gone on longer than anybody would ever expect somebody to do a review of this movie, but I wanted to go as in depth on this as I possibly could and throw out all the lines that I liked and so forth. And if I could show clips, I would, but no, I can't. So anyway, me talking about them doesn't do them justice. So you got to see James Spader and hear his performance for yourself. And yeah, I like this movie. I really love this movie. That was a great film for what it was. Really fun and entertaining action movie. Great sequel. I thought it was a lot better than its predecessor. It was a better film, better Avengers movie for me. There's more scenes of the Avengers doing more things. I liked the villain more. It wasn't just a rehash. It wasn't Loki again. And I liked how charismatic and fun Ultron was. And I liked how much fun the movie was. It had fun lines of dialogue, the fun characters, and I really liked this movie. So I really don't know what to say except if there's any problems. Like I said, just a little bit of the accents and a little bit of the moment, like how Ultron is set up. Like it is a bit convenient, but there's aren't really enough issues that affect my enjoyment of the film. They're very small, tiny things that don't really affect my enjoyment of the film at all, really, or the overall rating. So I really don't know what to say about Avengers: Age of Ultron, except I was to rate this movie out of 5 stars. I'm giving it 5 out of 5. Yes, 2 thumbs up, 5 out of 5. I really loved it. I really loved it for what it was. And I guess if you wanted to see a film more like the last Avengers, which is more story oriented and character building orientated and had more story arcs in it, then you probably didn't like this movie, and that's fine. But I really love this movie because it was more of an action film, and that's exactly what I wanted, a fun action movie, and that's exactly what I got with Avengers. So it definitely was not disappointing to me. But anyway, I really don't know what to say. I've said enough. It's been a long review. I hope you guys enjoyed it regardless, though. I just felt like there's a lot of things I wanted to talk about this movie. It is a movie that there's a lot of people who love it, but there's a lot of people who kind of don't like it, and I can agree with that, except for some certain points like the feminist crap. I don't get it. I don't understand it at all. And like my friend Matt said, some of the hate this film gets, it sounds like people are reviewing Transformers: Age of Extinction, not Age of Ultron. But anyway, thank you for watching my review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As long as it is, I hope I didn't bore you to tears. And stay tuned for more reviews. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. See you.